Hello and welcome to God's Hand Link, Decode Occult Science. In mid-July 2025, South Korea was ravaged by one of its most severe monsoon deluges in decades, triggering rampant floods and deadly landslides. Between the 16th of July and 21st, regions such as Gapyeong, Gyeonggi Province, Sancheong, South Gyeongsang, Gwangju, and South Chungcheong experienced unprecedented rainfall levels. In Gapyeong, authorities recorded an astonishing 173 millimeters, 6.8 inches, of rain within just 17 hours, shattering previous records and overwhelming drainage systems. As of the 21st of July, at least 18 people were confirmed dead, and 9 others remain missing, many of them feared buried under landslides or swept away in rapidly rising rivers. In Sancheong, victims were found beneath collapsed slopes, while in Osan, landslides engulfed residential structures. The torrential downpours forced the evacuation of more than 14,000 residents and caused extensive damage to over 4,200 facilities, including roads, railways, schools, and farmland irrigation networks. In response to the widespread devastation, President Lee Jae-myung declared several regions as special disaster zones, mobilizing emergency funds and coordinated relief operations. The Korean military deployed thousands of personnel to assist in rescue and recovery, while the Korea Meteorological Administration, KMA, warned that the combination of rising ocean temperatures and intensifying atmospheric instability is making these extreme rain events both more frequent and more deadly. With damage still being assessed and rescue efforts ongoing, the July 2025 floods will likely go down as one of South Korea's worst weather-related disasters in years, both in terms of human toll and economic loss. Today, let's pray for Prayer South Korea Floods 2025, praying for the good people of South Korea to overcome their destiny situation. The following are details about the July 2025 South Korea floods, presented in 5 parts. First, causes. Second, evolution. Third, effects. Fourth, solution. And fifth, manual. The last 2 parts will guide you on how to click the Pray button on the godshand.link website. If you pray sincerely, you will be able to open God's gate to successfully connect with God and receive God's beatitude to successfully help the people you are praying for. Causes. Torrential and record-breaking rainfall. The most immediate cause of the floods has been the sheer volume and intensity of rainfall. Heavy downpours. Beginning around the 16th of July, South Korea was hit by heavy to very heavy rainfall across multiple regions, including Naju, Gwangju, Seoul, Hanseong, and Gyeonggi Province. Record precipitation. Some areas, particularly in South Chungcheong Province, like Seosan, experienced record-breaking hourly rainfall, with one region pummeled by the most rainfall per hour since full records began in 1904. Southern regions received between 600 to 800 millimeters, 24 to 31 inches, of rain since the 16th of July. Sancheong County in the south saw nearly 800 millimeters, 31.5 inches, of rain since the 17th of July. Monsoon season characteristics. South Korea experiences an annual monsoon season, known as Jangma, typically from late June to late July. While the country is usually well prepared for these rains, this year's monsoon presented particular challenges. Delayed but intense onset. Some experts noted that the monsoonal rains came later than expected this year, catching many local areas unprepared for the sudden severity of the downpours. Collision of air masses. The heavy rainfall was caused by the continuous collision of different air masses. Dry and cold air from a low-pressure system north of the peninsula, meeting warm and humid air from the North Pacific high-pressure system to the South Korea. This interaction formed a large rain cloud system bringing widespread precipitation. Climate change as an exacerbating factor. Scientists and meteorological agencies have increasingly linked the intensity and frequency of extreme weather events, including these floods, to climate change. Increased intensity. Official weather data indicates that South Korea has experienced some of the heaviest hourly rainfall on record this year. Scientists state that climate change has made such extreme weather events more frequent and intense around the world. Unpreparedness for new extremes. While South Korea typically experiences monsoon rains and is generally well prepared, the record-breaking nature of this year's rainfall suggests that existing infrastructure and preparedness measures may be overwhelmed by the new extremes brought about by a changing climate. Evolution. The situation began on the 16th of July, when torrential rainfall associated with the East Asian monsoon system, locally called Jangma, began lashing southern regions such as South Chungcheong and Seosan. Within 48 hours, Seosan received over 420 millimeters of rain, and Gwangju recorded its heaviest single-day rainfall in 86 years, reaching more than 400 millimeters. The initial storms resulted in at least 4 deaths and prompted the evacuation of more than 1,300 residents, many of whom were trapped in submerged vehicles or affected by collapsing infrastructure such as retaining walls. As the monsoon rains persisted and shifted northward, the situation worsened by the 18th to 19th of July. Northern and central parts of the country experienced devastating flash floods and landslides. In Gapyeong, a deadly landslide struck a camping area, killing a man in his 42nd and leaving several missing. In the southern county of Sancheong, an extraordinary 800 millimeters of rain fell over just a few days, triggering massive landslides that buried homes and villages, resulting in numerous fatalities and injuries. By this stage, the number of evacuees had surged to over 13,000, while transportation across the country was disrupted by canceled flights, submerged highways, and damaged railways. The National Weather Agency reported localized rain rates of over 115 millimeters per hour, exacerbating the flood risk and pushing rivers and reservoirs to dangerous levels. The crisis peaked on the 20th of July, as rainfall intensity reached record-breaking levels. In Gapyeong alone, 173 millimeters of rain fell in just 17 hours, surpassing previous national records. The cumulative impact of the storm led to the deaths of at least 17 people, with 11 still missing at the time. Power outages affected over 40,000 homes and businesses, and emergency services were stretched thin across multiple provinces. President Lee Jae-myung responded by declaring special disaster zones in the hardest-hit areas and mobilizing military units for rescue and recovery operations. The Korean Meteorological Administration characterized the rains as a once-in-a-century monsoonal event, underscoring the severity and rarity of the deluge. By the 21st of July, the rain had finally subsided across much of the country, but the aftermath was devastating. The death toll had risen to 18, with several people still unaccounted for. Emergency crews began clearing debris, restoring infrastructure, and distributing aid to displaced communities. In addition to physical destruction, the country now faced the threat of a severe heat wave, prompting new alerts just as flood recovery began. Experts pointed to climate change as a factor in the storm's intensity and timing, noting a trend toward delayed and increasingly extreme monsoonal patterns in the region. Effects. Human casualties and displacement. Death toll. As of the 21st of July, 2025, at least 18 people have been confirmed dead. The fatalities were reported across several regions, with South Gyeongsang Province, particularly Sancheong County, being the hardest hit, 10 deaths, followed by Gyeonggi Province, Gapyeong, 4 deaths, South Chungcheong Province, 3 deaths, and Gwangju, 1 death. Missing persons. At least 9 people remain missing, raising fears that the death toll could increase as search and rescue operations continue. Evacuations. Nearly 14,200 people have been forced to evacuate their homes and seek shelter in temporary emergency centers. Many of these individuals are still unable to return home due to ongoing damage. Extensive infrastructure damage. Public and private property. Over 4,200 structures across the country have been damaged. This includes over 1,999 cases of damage to public facilities and 2,238 cases to private homes and buildings. Roads and bridges. Numerous roads were flooded, washed out, or damaged by landslides. At least 6 national highways and 10 underpasses were closed. Some sources reported over 388 damaged roads. Rail services. Train services on several major lines were partially or completely suspended, including routes on the Gyeongbu, Honam, and Gyeongjeon lines. Utilities. Power outages affected tens of thousands of households. Landslides. The saturated ground led to numerous deadly landslides, burying houses, sweeping away vehicles, and causing significant structural damage, particularly in mountainous areas like Sancheong and Gapyeong. Devastation to agriculture and livestock. Farmland submerged. An estimated 28,491 hectares of farmland were submerged. Rice paddies were particularly hard hit, accounting for over 25,000 hectares of the damaged area. Other affected crops include soybeans, peppers, watermelons, radishes, and potatoes, many of which rotted due to mud floods. Livestock losses. The floods resulted in significant livestock casualties. Around 1.57 million animals were affected, including approximately 1 million chickens, 200 pigs, and 56 cattle confirmed dead. Farmers in regions like Yeongun reported severe losses. Food price increases. The widespread damage to crops and livestock has led to soaring food prices, particularly for vegetables like napa, cabbage, lettuce, and cucumbers, as well as fruits like watermelons and melons. Broiler chicken and egg prices have also seen increases, sparking concerns about supply shortages and increased living expenses. Economic and social disruptions. Disrupted daily life. The extensive damage to infrastructure and public services severely disrupted daily life for hundreds of thousands of people. Government response. In response to the crisis, President Lee Jae-myung declared the worst affected regions as special disaster zones, which will provide them with greater financial and recovery support. The military has been mobilized to assist in recovery and cleanup efforts. Long-term concerns. Experts and editorials in reputable news outlets have highlighted that the intensity of these floods, linked to climate change, underscores a broader issue of South Korea's infrastructure and disaster planning failing to keep pace with evolving climate realities. There's a call for a shift from reactive measures to proactive climate resilience strategies. Solution. Solve by a reform prayer in Pray God's Will page at https://godshand.link/praygodswill address, with a phrase search as Prayer South Korea Floods 2025. Praying for the good people of South Korea to overcome their destiny situation, sentence. And click Pray button. Manual. For more information about how to pray on the God's Hand Link website, please refer to Pray God's Will user manual page at https://godshand.link/Pray God's Will user manual address. By clicking the Pray button, you have contributed to helping the good people who are victims of this catastrophic flood. Your small acts of kindness are like seeds that can grow into a forest of compassion and love. Helping others is not only about material support, but also about spiritual support. Because the material originates from intention, a prayerful intention of yours will bring about the transformation of the material world according to God's will. Thank you for helping. God's Hand Link. Thanks for helping. To decode occult science,